All right. So we're live on Facebook and YouTube. We got our last show of the day, David and Kim Martin. It's going to be an extraordinary show. I'm really fired up about it. So just sit tight. We're going to put on the intro, so allow people time to come in, and so we can share out to the network. See you in about a minute and a half. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to our last show of the day. We got David and Kim Martin coming in to sit down with us, and this ought to be really interesting. I just want to say to everyone, thank you for the continued love and support and contributions. We're somewhere between 1,900 and 2,000 episodes of Soul Speak 5D, and they only get better and better. And we're just going to keep working to expand this network till we have our own server and our own stream, and we're out from under the restrictions of all these matrix vehicles that we're all contending with. So let me just, before we get started, let me give you a little background on David and Kim. Um, this actually happened because he put out a heck of a video about a week and a half ago. Morgan saw it, had to do with some truth telling on the COVID situation. And so she reached out, and we found a divine couple uh, was uh, was behind it all. So first we got Kim Martin. She's a woman fully alive. She's infused with the sunshine and the indomitable spirit of Australia, wild, untamed, and brazen. From caring for Aboriginal communities in the Northern Territory to creating one of Australia's premier skilled nursing businesses, Kim's passion for life has found its expression in assisting others to live their very best life. Never one to take life by halves, she was the first unstoppable to join the 2015 Antarctic expedition, the journey that would lead her to the edge of her comfort zone and into the love and passion of her life, spreading her Kimness in art, fashion, human behavior optimization, and passion for living. She provides fully living for others by modeling it in her own life and practice. Right on. I like that part about Antarctica too. Dr. David Martin is the founder and chairman of M-CAM Inc., the international leader in innovation, finance, trade, and intangible asset finance. He's the developer of the first innovation-based quantitative index of public equities and is the managing partner of the Purple Bridge Funds. He's a creator of the first quantitative public equity index, CNBC IQ 100, powered by M-CAM. He's actively engaged in global ethical economic development. His work includes financial engineering, investment, public speaking, writing, and providing financial advisory services to the majority of countries in the world. He's the architect and founder of Global Innovation Commons and is the author of the International Legal Framework for the Heritable Knowledge Trust and Heritable Innovation Trust programs. He's pioneered global programs to bring corporate and stock market transparency to multinational extractive industries and has been instrumental in repatriating value to countries which have been subject to corporate financial abuses. His work on ethical engagement and stewardship of community and commons-based value interests is at the forefront of global financial innovation. Dr. Martin is a Batten Fellow at the University of Virginia's Darden Graduate School of Business Administration. He served as chair of economic innovation for the UN-affiliated Intergovernmental Renewable Energy Organization and has served as an advisor to numerous central banks, global economic forums, the World Bank, and International Finance Corporation and national governments. I can go on and on about him. I want to also point out in this bio that he's founded several for-profit and not-for-profit companies and organizations and serves on several boards. He's got a heck of a resume, and I'll attach it to the live. But so you won't have to look at my face all night. I'm going to get them up here, and let's see. Let's get to know him a little bit better. All right. How are the two of you doing?
Couldn't be better.
Great, thank
How are
you.
you, Todd?
Nice to be here, Todd.
Oh, I like the accent. You know, I'm married to an Australian.
Yes.
So, yeah, this is Soul Speaks 5D. Thank you for coming in and honoring us with your presence. We're stepping out a little bit. Morgan saw that incredible production y'all put together regarding the COVID, the legal aspects of it. Very powerful. We passed it around to our friends. And then, of course, she reached out. And then I went to David's website, and I was like blown away listening to some of these videos. I posted one yesterday. And then, of course, I saw your incredible bio, too. And the thing about Antarctica, which is a dear place in my heart. For some reason, I have no idea. It's just intuitive. I don't know what's going on. Ever since I woke up, that's all I can think about sometimes.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So you guys, I don't know. On this show, we talk about what's happening, kind of definitely off the mainstream, probably off the alt news. We're trying to forge, I guess, the new mainstream. You know, just the truth. We just try to find the truth, whether it's in our stories or whatever our skills or abilities or talents are, what our work is, what our mission is, what our passions are. But you two carry a lot of light, a lot of energy. How long y'all been together?
You want to go ahead and talk about Antarctica?
We actually met in Antarctica just over 5 years ago on my birthday in a volcano. So it's a pretty epic meeting.
Where's the mic? Let me get the mic drop going here. No, that's incredible. So
Yeah.
you went to Antarctica too, and you guys met in a volcano in Antarctica.
Yeah,
Yes.
on Deception Island, February 2nd, 2015. So I love the fact that Kim fell in love with me on Deception Island. So I get a pass for the rest of my life. The universe told her what to expect.
So, I mean, how did y'all even get over there? Was there some type of like a tourist thing, or what was it?
It was an entrepreneurial cruise, and it was
Yeah.
supposed to be people getting together, mainly Australians and a few from New Zealand. And David was the main speaker on the boat, and the idea of it was to have people come together to make a difference in the world. And you know, it ranged all sorts of people from startup companies to billionaires. And while you were creating, you also got obviously the backdrop and the adventures of Antarctica. And I was very much drawn to David as he was speaking, and yes, we had quite an interesting meeting.
Okay, so who busted the move?
Without question, she did.
Well,
I was giving one of my brilliant speeches that was absolutely riveting and earth-shattering and groundbreaking, and she came up after my speech and uttered the following sentence, and I'm quoting: "I'm clearly the alpha female on this boat. You're clearly the alpha male. I should be attracted to you, but I'm not." Long pause, but I could be. That's how we met.
That's probably the best. That's probably the best line I've ever heard in my life. That's the
Yeah,
best
well,
line I've ever
when it comes to pickup lines, that's in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, it is, and you would think it would have come from a man, but it came from a woman. So that's even more impressive. That's even more impressive. So you guys obviously have a lot of things that you align with each other on, and I think one of them first and foremost, maybe, is to raise, expand this world, make it a better place. I mean, uh, I think that's based on what I saw on David's site. I mean, and what I picked up from your bio. I mean, you guys are full time, 24/7, working for the collective.
Yeah, and I
Very
think,
true.
yeah, I think what we're doing is we're trying to show that you can live entirely within the interconnectedness of the universe,
Mm.
without having to try to be something or someone else. We try to model in our own lives what we see as possible. So we're constantly looking at how we can more perfectly integrate into the world around us. And I think part of our objective is to say that, if through the adversities and the challenges that we've had throughout our lives, which have been innumerable, if we can constantly keep this fire going, this passion, this light going, um, rather than preaching the merits of it, we want to live it and let other people feel the effects of it.
Yeah.
And the great thing is when people come around our energy, um, by and large, they light up. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
working.
So let the energy speak. Our energy speaks.
It's exactly right.
Yeah,
It's
very
exactly
true.
right.
So that's it. Yeah. And so, going out there and doing it and being you, and owning that, and not going around telling people. You
Yeah.
just do it, and then
Yeah.
the energy itself.
Living it.
And that's similar to many stories we've heard of couples that have come on, including, my relationship, Morgan and I. So I can relate to that. Now this is like new ground. I mean, do you feel like your relationship as it's evolved kind of has paralleled what's going on, at least in the circles closest to you, at least in the work that you're doing?
You want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, our relationship just evolves. Our number one priority is each other and our relationship, and that fuels all that we do. And I know a lot of people forget that the relationship and working on yourself and making sure you have the foundation in yourself and as a couple. A lot of people forget that is the main fuel, and only if they get time they might put some effort into it. But the other way around, it makes like we are firing because we first put the effort into our relationship. Good communication, just speaking up about things, knowing, trusting when you're feeling off, or just a constant importance of each other. And as David mentioned, we've had between the both of us, we run various workshops and other things to help people be their best version, and to get rid of the baggage and things that isn't theirs. But you have to live it, or people, they see that you're not coherent with what you're teaching. And people just they do on some level, they just, in an unconscious level, they just feel like, I want to be being around you, I'm inspired, I want to be a better version, so we've gone through many journeys of letting go of what isn't ours, what parents put upon you, society and other things, and we're at a space where we're being authentically us, and in a relationship where all the other stuff isn't there, we're being Kim and David, and that's taken quite a process. And I think to be able to live like that and teach that, you have to live like that to be able to have people gravitate towards you, and that's really authentic. And so our relationship evolves better and better every day, and we don't subscribe to the theory that over time you become more, I don't know, ours is more, we have more spark and more closeness and connectedness every day. And because why should you shrink when, as a human being, you're naturally wanting to expand, and you can do the same in your relationship.
Right on. Great answer. Great first answer. Best one-liner. She's the king and the queen of it. But yeah, it captures the energy of as within, without. Right. I mean, you guys are building it from the core, and you're letting your energy speak for itself. That energy is a consciousness of its own, and it's merging and collaborating and co-creating with other energies, including people. I mean, this is
Well,
This
I
is
think one of the things that we really value in the work that we do and in the relationships that we have with others is we made a really solemn commitment to each other, which was the only thing that could come into our relationship was authentically us. So I couldn't bring life and baggage and history and everything else. Kim couldn't bring life, baggage, history. It's not that we lived in a denial of the complexities that we've been through, but it was our relationship had to be very clear, sacred and sovereignly ours.
yeah.
And that means that what that entails is to get really honest with, if I was having an issue, for example, with family issues or some of the things that have happened in business or whatever else, I had to get really clear on that's not Kim's.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore it's not ours. It's mine. I have to be clear on that. And I can't dump it on her. And similarly, she can't dump those things on us. So we've really carved out, to your point, in that core, the core of our relationship has to be purely us.
Yeah.
And we can't invite other energies in, and we can't include other baggage from any place else into that space. And I think that's a really critical thing that takes an enormous amount of courage. And, speaking as a man sitting next to the truly the woman of my dreams, what I can say very confidently is it was an enormous challenge for me to see myself, and I'll share with you this very short journey, but to see myself not only worthy of being in a relationship with her, but having the awakening to the fact that the concept of being worthy itself was a problem. It was my imposition of where I fit and where she fit on a hierarchy. And we had to get to a place where I had to be able to say, I am in a relationship, right? I am here.
Yeah.
She's here. And not, oh my God, I can't believe I'm this lucky. Or, oh my God, I can't believe, that I'm worthy or not. Those energies had to be pulled out so that we had the ability to have our space purely us.
Yeah. I don't think that there's any coincidences, but I'm looking at an American male and an Australian woman, and I'm listening to him, and it's like, like, am I here? Am I in another dimension? So I totally get I get you guys. I mean, it's weird. It's eerie. So in your case, David, I mean, I love the way you laid that out, both of you. Was she able, did she assist you, or what role did she play in you dealing with, creating that line of distinction between what's yours and what's yours? Both of you.
Yeah. So I had been in a relationship for 30 years. And that relationship had run its course, and it was one very much where I had made a commitment quite early in my life to watch over and care for another person. And through the course of life, the great news is that in many respects, that mission was accomplished. Mm-hmm. But my identity had been defined by a suppression of my interests, my desires, my needs, my wants, my whatever, in favor of what was a form of love, but it was really caregiving. It was not something where I felt I had both a voice, and even I didn't even see myself as entitled to have a voice. And so the journey that Kim helped me go on, and by the way, we were very fortunate. My former wife was quite instrumental in building a bridge. She and Kim had a number of conversations about me, both in front of my face and behind my back. There was a lot of early communication, so I give both of them credit for that. I think that was amazing. But Kim specifically had to have the bluntness of that first sentence she uttered, right? That she was not going to put up with me diminishing or belittling myself. At the end of the day, if I was going to hang with her, I had to man up and kind of earn my spot next to her. And while she has a deep level of love and compassion and kindness, behind that facade, there is also
it's like the Cali.
There's also a what is your nasty kind of spider in Australia? The big guys. There's a huntsman spider,
yes.
right? That's ready to bite you in the ass if you don't actually, if you don't actually show up. And so while there is deep love and affection, there's also the form of love that says, hey, I'm not gonna coddle you. You're not gonna get wrapped in cotton wool. You're not gonna be sympathetic to the woe is me story. You gotta step into your energy and your state.
And quickly.
Phenomenal motivator.
Step up and quickly too. Yeah, when Morgan came over to the US the first time, the first 5 weeks we were there, because she knew, and we talked, I mean, for a year and a half, and had a relationship online. But anyway, when she came, she's a practitioner. She's an energy practitioner. She's she speaks the same language you guys are speaking. And she said, you know what? We don't have much time. Get to work. And it was the best boot camp I've ever been to. 5 weeks of hours and hours a day. But I did it because of what I saw we had.
Yeah.
But yeah, now, did you guys, either one of you guys, have any like modalities or training in terms of like, this shadow work or inner work, that type of thing?
Yes.
Or did you just kind of come into it on your own?
I've always been, or both of us have always had a fascination for what's possible. So we would read and study and that kind of thing. And I've done endless courses in emotional health, human behavior. I'm a registered nurse. Okay. It's been endless, NLP practitioner. Like there's just a lot of extra things that I've done and reading. But I also think the greatest thing or teaching or thing you can impart on others is actual real experience. Yeah. And both of us have gone through, between the both of us, there's not many people that could come to us and go, I bet you haven't heard of this story. And, this happened to me. And we'd go, yeah, pretty much between the both of us. Yeah. It's happened. We've come through it. Yeah. We haven't let it, burn us and take us out. We actually, our light shone brighter. And then that's very inspiring for people because they can see, well, we didn't go in a puff of smoke and we went through awkward things and taboo conversations and, things that would, take other people out or give them a victim identity. And, we want to be ourselves. We want to be Kim, the person that had this suffering or things like that. It's just a story. Now we're able to get to a point where, it is a story, and then you're able to attract in people who are right in their difficulty of it, and they can see that you're just telling it as a story without emotion and you're not attached to it. So I think the greatest is the lived experience that we have. But yes, between the both of us, we have studied a lot and run many workshops. And
if we make your hair brunette, and I don't know if your eyes are green, but you look just like, you sound just like.
I would also say having, and if you were exposed to my film Future Dreaming, I make a reference in that film to a sense that I have always had the sense that I've never fallen asleep. I feel like I've always been awake. Yeah. And I feel that because I have clarity of energetic connection that is just a persistent set of clear memories or senses or awarenesses. So one of the things that I like to encourage people to think about is I think we get sometimes in kind of the postmodern pop psychology movement, we get into this conversation about shadow and so forth. I love the ancient Chinese character for the word north. And it's a very simple character. It's a beautiful little cryptogram. But the meaning of it was actually the north side of a mountain. Now remember that the Chinese language obviously evolved in the Northern Hemisphere, and the north side of a mountain was the concept of north, but the principle of the character was the boundary of darkness and light created by the shadow of a mountain. So north in the classic ancient Chinese metaphysics was the side of the mountain where you saw the edges of light. Yeah. And the reason I raise that is because I think sometimes we get trapped in the duality of light and dark. And rather than seeing those two things as needing to be integrated, what I like to do is encourage people to see that those things that may be energies that are difficult, or those things that may be experiences that are difficult, or attributes within themselves that they may find slightly off-putting, what that does, if you manipulate the energy of it just slightly, is it allows you to discern the edges of things. And that's a subtle shift, but I work with a lot of people to move through that, to integrate the fact that the energies that we hold are a mix, right? They can be used for light or dark, and they themselves can be light and dark. But the challenge is to get to that space of integrating this notion that those merely set edges, clarity, boundaries, and so forth. And rather than trying to accommodate it or expunge it or whatever, right?
Yeah.
The idea, and we talk about this when we talk about the breathing enterprise work and the fully live work that we teach, is your core may contain things that are energies that you carry that if you had your wish list, you might not put in the bag. But it's the alchemy of working with those energies that makes you the capacity to be the full identity, the full essence that you're meant to be. And so rather than trying to overcome them or rationalize them, the trick is harness their energy.
Yeah.
And really deeply work on that. And so, yeah, it's a method that I've used. It's a method that we teach. And it means that sometimes you have to acknowledge that there are things about you that you just wouldn't put on the list of your favorite attributes, but they're there. And so the issue is to really use the energies those represent, use your response to those energies in a constructive way.
Yeah. Own it.
Yeah.
Own it. Yeah. And transform it. And it's how, when you're explaining that, I'm thinking of like a wild Mustang, and you get on a wild Mustang and it's all that energy and all that strength and power. And, I don't know, become one with it or however you want to put it, but it becomes something that you're working in tandem with.
One of the traditions that I've spent a lot of time working in is the Zoroastrian traditions of regions in Iran, from deep friendships and relationships I've formed there. And one of the things that I've done a lot of work in is trying to understand a Persian view of astrology in a very different way. So, we all can think of birth charts and the kinds of stuff that are where we in the Occidental space kind of think of astrology. But in the Persian traditions, there were a number of traditions that focused on your conception and your birth, and looking at the both coherence and the dissonance between the astral energies where you conceived and the astral energies where you started breathing. And if you look at those as almost a matchmaking of astrology, if you think of it in a very simple way, what you find is that there's necessarily inner conflict. There's inner conflict between the energy that you said yes to come into the world, and then the inner conflict of when you actually emerged in the world. And getting a map of that inner conflict space actually informs every person I've ever worked with. Because if you actually do that, think of it as simply as if you did a matchmaking, I'm a Taurus and you're a Libra. Like if you put that together, you are a matchmaking. You are. Each individual is. There was the decision to incarnate. There was the decision to breathe. And the space in between that holds a very interesting tension that I think is very instructive on how I navigate my own life. I navigate relationships. I navigate my interactions with other people. Yeah.
It's almost like, is that the base equation of creation? It's like, that's, all of it. Like, for instance, like what you were talking about with the inner turmoil, the inner conflict. It's almost like that would be going on in perpetuity.
Yeah.
Where, you would never just flatline and, right. I'm in the light and I'm here, and the angels are singing, no disrespect, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the great thing is you don't have to let that rule your life like an unconscious program.
Yeah.
You can actually, it's like, you know, we say know thyself on the deepest level, and you can, you know, the traits that are about yourself by the processes that, you know, that we teach and help people understand. And then also looking at your Zoroaster chart, and, you know, you can actually then be an observer of yourself. And instead of letting, you know, your life show up where you don't want what's showing up, then you can see, well, now I can change it. I can see why clearly because of my, you know, my traits and what I incarnated with and things like that. And you get to be on the front foot and be in the driver's seat rather than most people are running unconsciously, but they don't know why. They don't know why their life's showing up. They don't know why they, you know, have preferences for different things or different angers or just different anything. And it's actually, you make sense.
Yeah.
And it's so making sense of things and then being, in your own driver's seat is like such a breath of fresh air. And that's what we've studied deeply. And it's helped us understand each other very well.
Right on. And where do you guys live? Are y'all in the States or in Australia?
Yeah, we're in Charlottesville, Virginia. We live just the next mountain over from Thomas Jefferson's home at Monticello. So
right on. Yeah.
When the sun rises, it rises over Monticello and then comes into our kitchen table.
And then somebody's asking, what signs are you? What star signs are you?
I'm an Aquarian.
And I'm a Taurus.
I don't know anything about that stuff, so but it sounds good to me. And you do look like a Taurus.
I don't
look
have
like an Aquarius.
A bull in a china shop. I come by it honestly.
Yeah, I used to be. I've toned down a little bit since I've met Morgan. She's I needed to, I think, a little bit, but yeah, this is really cool. Now, you guys have a pretty wide berth. I mean, you guys have a big circle, you know, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's something that's, I guess, more prevalent in the internet age, but I mean, you've been out there for a while, individually and together. Do you, in the circles you run in, do people talk about, I'm just curious, do they talk about ascension? Do they talk about star seeds? Do they talk about, ETs or star family, however you want to put it?
So I love the fact that I built my community, my family, my global connection in the analog space. I spent my entire life traveling. You can see from my bio, I've done business in over 120 countries. I have built relationships and friends and family truly all over the world. In fact, not long ago, somebody said that they had done an analysis of where my friends are. And they said that you cannot be dropped anywhere on the planet and not be within walking distance of someone you love, which is an amazing thought. And that's true. I mean, I have people everywhere. I built my world in analog. What the internet and what connectivity has done is it's made some of those relationships more reliably communicative. So, I can keep up with my friends in Papua New Guinea or Tonga or Samoa or wherever, Rwanda. I can keep up with those friends because of the communication facility, but the relationship we have was built in analog. The reason why that's important is because, to answer your question about kind of the openness of communication, I'll give you an example. One of my dearest friends and family members is Teresa Eric. She is I call her my sister. She's a dear friend in Papua New Guinea. We've done tons of business together. We've done all sorts of things together. And she introduced me to the metaphysics of the East New Britain communities called the Komgi. And that's the modern term. The old term is Kakak, the old 40,000 year oral tradition folks that live up in East New Britain, Papua New Guinea. And I developed tons of beautiful relationships with them. And what I found was that in many cultures, in many communities, there is a intersection between all dimensions that is the native state. So in Kakak custom, for example, and I've experienced this, by the way, in Peru with some of my dear friends who are part of the Inca tradition. The notion that we are somehow in a transitive state or an ascending state or a disarticulated state with the cosmos doesn't exist, right? There was a I wear on my finger a ring, which is a tribal ring from Papua New Guinea. There was a moment when a group of tribes generously conducted a ceremony where they said that they sent my soul into the stars. And it was a fire ceremony, and there's sparks, and anything that involves fire I'm pretty cool with. So, but it was a really cool thing. And in their world, in their worldview was very clear that we were all so interconnected that I needed to have this journey that they wanted to send my soul on. And the interesting bit of this journey is that happened in, I want to say, early October of 2008. I was in Peru at the headwaters of the Urubamba River in the Sacred Valley in Peru. And when I was there, a thunderstorm came up the Sacred Valley. And literally, as it was coming up the valley, the shaman that I was sitting next to looked at me and he said, "What's in that storm?" And I said, "Well, it looks like a thunderstorm." He goes, "No, what's in the storm?" And I said, "Well, lightning, rain." Like I was trapped in my very linear kind of, it's a storm, it's a rainstorm. And as it got closer, he looked at me and he said, "No," he said, "your soul's coming back to you, and it's coming back from the stars." Now, neither the people in Papua New Guinea nor the shaman had any communication, right? They didn't know each other. They didn't have a connection, whatever. But they did, because somehow the tribal elders in PNG had sent, whatever this means, sent my soul to the stars. The shaman in Peru saw my soul coming back in a thunderstorm from the stars. And those two communications happened within 3 weeks of each other. So for 3 weeks, apparently, I was a soulless being wandering around with my soul journeying through the stars. The reason I raise this issue is because I have been so embraced by cultures who erase the notion of dislocation, and they embrace the idea of full integration. We are persistent, generative, infinitely orthogonal beings that have our form, to be sure, but we are the ones that constrain ourselves. We are the ones that limit, through our own perspective, our ability to be time, space, relationship independent. And my experience of that in the analog is so rich that I try to help people remember that part of the livingness of their being. And I try to do that as many ways as I can, because the fact of the matter is time and space are our imposition. Distance is our imposition. Separation is our imposition.
That's right.
And the minute we can get back into the full integration, we don't want to depart, right? We don't want to go somewhere. We don't want to transcend something. We want to fully fall into, as I say in the film, the river of purpose, the river of consequence, the river of the persistence of consciousness. That's what we want to be doing. And so it's a slightly different take, but it's one that I have been blessed with, the perspectives of people for whom this is as normal as what are you having for dinner?
Yeah. That's very profound, very thought-provoking on the term ascension. I mean, I just made the comment about that inner turmoil would seem that's, in that basic equation of creation, that it would be perpetual. And along the same lines, to me, what you're saying is the same thing, but the difference is, and this is a really good point, the difference is a lot of people have come to these, these points that they're at through the internet. And there hasn't been a lot of physicality. You've actually gone out and experienced this in the physicality, which, for instance, if we just use me as an example, I've done a few times, I've met people and we've had, things have happened, but to do it for so long and to see that, you actually have more clarity because you are at the embodiment level, experiencing it. Yeah.
Well, and you don't, right. If I tried to explain to somebody what it means to watch a grass mat breathe next to a fire and then watch your soul fly up in the sparks, I would be limited in my capacity to explain it, because I can only give you that part of the senses that I can tune into. And then I'm only limited by the ability for me to communicate that to somebody else. The challenge is when you've lived it, you actually know that your own story, even though it reflects the actual narrative as you recall it, isn't truth in an absolute sense. Because the truth in an absolute sense is I really laid my life into the hands of loving, generous tribal elders, and they performed a ceremony where I fell into their river of consciousness, their knowledge, their resource, their connection. And I don't know that I know what they did in truth. I mean, I can tell you what my experience was, but I don't know what they did, but I do know the effect of it. I know what it did for me. And I think that that's where I really encourage people to move out of this digital reductionism and move into a space of that rich, human, connected, analog, natural space.
Yeah. We have two hashtags here. One, when I started it 9 years ago, I am soul. And over the last couple of years, the human is the hero.
Yeah.
Because why would we be, we spend all of our time trying to get rid of this or get out of here or, whatever the case is, but you're absolutely 100,000 million% right in my opinion. If it doesn't happen here, it's not even, well, my wife says this to me all the time, when she met me, she's like, oh, you're up here. But if you don't embody it, it doesn't mean a thing.
Yeah.
And I asked her for 2 years, I'd ask her like every couple of months, what does that mean? But when I got it, now I get it more and more and more every day. And I see it with people in the community as well. So that's a great point. Yeah, absolutely. When did you guys get married, by the way?
We had our first date on August 8th, 2015, and we got married on the same date 2 years later, 2017, in Australia.
Eights are pretty important to us.
Yeah, so that was a 888 on both of those days, and it was a beautiful day. It was in Noosa, Australia, in August 8th.
Wow. And do you guys have, and I asked that because that question was asked, because we could talk all night long, I can already tell. So there's, and I love what you said about this, I can't say it again, the human is the hero. And then I love the fact that you guys have come together in that same energy. So, and the fact that you operate from, I am the center of the universe, basically. All that connectivity is centered here, which then you took to your relationship and so on. Do you see, going back to that one question I asked you, but do you see something happening with, let's say, the collective feminine energy and the collective masculine energy, like a shift? Some people talk about it's been a patriarchal system, and we all know what the consequences of that have been, that feminine energy is rising collectively, energetically, etherically. Do you see any validity to that, or any does that correlate with anything in your own experience?
First, that's a cactus. Go ahead.
A cactus.
I'm
from Texas.
about that. And before I even met David, was fascinated with the masculine and feminine energies and the dance. I like to refer to it as the dance that you can do. And unfortunately, there seems to be this perpetual wheel of man's up, then the woman's up, and then there's this battle. And then the woman would try to become more like a man and lose her femininity, and that's her power, is her femininity. She can be powerful and in business and all those things because that's what I do. I don't have to look like a man, speak like a man, or anything else.
Yeah, you don't look like a man at all.
No, but I can still be intelligent, wise, and powerful, not by being, say, a ball buster. I can just be me and be real and authentic and dance with the man. I don't want to overpower him or dominate. And I feel when you are at your best and are in your feminine and you do that dance and do it beautifully, the man rises. the man rises to his best,
Yeah.
and then you dance beautifully together.
Yeah.
Whatever energy might have been there to, suppress each other, it can be a, for want of a better word, win-win. Like it can be so beautiful. That's like in our relationship, when one fires, the other one, it's an automatic, I've got to lift my game. You do when you're, a man can treat a woman beautifully and she'll have her best given back. And, if you can keep that love and respect and that dance going in life in general, everyone's happy. And if you can get that there's a lot of learning that hasn't been done for men and women in families or just in communities on how to be a great man in general, how to be a great woman, how to be a great husband, like how to love each other, how to love people. Like that is a huge thing that's missing. Of course, none of that's in schools. And families, a lot of them don't know how to talk about it. It could, is that awkward, or they don't even know the tools, or they've never had it. They wouldn't even know where to start. So I think that dance can be done beautifully, but it does need some education, and you can make it fun. And there's a lot of people that are, doing it well out there. A lot of people that we know that are really, into helping people embrace their masculinity and the woman, their femininity. And it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can have a lovely experience together, both evolving.
Yeah, Morgan's been telling me for a long time about these couples that seem to be this, I don't know, new frequency of couples that is coming to the surface. That when she steps into her power, when the feminine steps into her power, that what you just said at the beginning, he'll rise up to that, and then the dance starts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's where I think in our experience, I'm very familiar with the conversations. I've done a lot of work with communities in Colorado around the kind of the emergent feminine and a number of those kind of languages. But one of the things that I've been very careful with in that space is to be sensitive to the fact that feminine is not the opposite of oppression. The idea, because I've seen in a lot of communities that talk about this, an emasculation of men, where the notion that somehow or another you have to amp down being a man so that you can allegedly create space for womanness. I think that's nonsense, because I think that the woman who is encountering non-dominant masculine and the man encountering non-dominant feminine unleashes a thing in the middle, like we talk about all the time, whether it's in our personal lives, in our sexual lives, in our relationship, no matter what it is, when we are fully that raw essence of who we are, the middle space that we create is actually far more powerful than either one of us by ourselves. I mean, there's just no way that you can say, well, it really was more me or more Kim. There's neither and both. And then whatever the sum of that cumulative effect is so more transcendent. And one of the things, like I said at the beginning, one of my big journeys was to be able to own that I am in this relationship. That was a headspace where I shrunk. And it would be very easy for me to just go, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Or, I could self-deprecate really easily. Yeah. And Kim would sit there going, would you freaking just step up? And so, and so it's a really great conversation, but I think we need to be able to say that there are horrific men who have dominated women. Equally, there are horrific women who have dominated men. And I think that the model that is really the ideal is to say, how do we understand the transcendent energetics of a fully empowered woman, a fully empowered man embracing the fully empowered union, because that is friggin' lighting the sun, right? That is the emanating energy that rules and runs, life.
It's like back to that basic creation equation. I mean, it's by the same token of what you said, there's many dominant men out there that are terrific men, And there are many dominant women that are terrific women. But what you're bringing to the table and what you're pointing out about the potential and reality of these relationships is they can both be in their fullest power. And that creates that third energy that Rumi used to write about.
Yeah.
Are you guys sure did you guys set me up? Have y'all been talking to Morgan on the phone for the last few days?
Yeah, it's all a therapy. This is an intervention for you, Todd.
He gave us all these questions down here.
No, I'm just,
yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's funny. That's funny. Oh wow, this is awesome, man. You guys are awesome. Unbelievable. If we get up that way, we're in Florida right now, but if we get up that way, we'll have to hit you up. Have dinner or something.
Oh, that'd be lovely. That'd be really nice.
So you guys, because I don't want to run out of time, and I want people to get as much awareness about you as possible, which I don't know how we can do in an hour and 5. But you guys have created, you just talked about it, the third energy, that middle space. Obviously, you are both individuals as well. And so I imagine you do some things together and you do some things, but you have a joint mission or joint missions. What are they? And, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So I developed many years ago a construct called integral accounting, which is an all-in consequence way to look at the world. It specifically gives you the tools to look at the field effect of every decision that you make and every action that you take to make sure that you've accounted for every consequence of what you do. And it was a very very scientific, very, it was a very regimented way of looking at the world. Kim's contribution to this through the work that she had been working on called Fully Live, which was this construct of how do we find not only what our best version would be, but how do we find the tools to bring that into a expression. Gave rise to workshops that we do together called Breathing Enterprise and Fully Live workshops. So Breathing Enterprise is what we do when we're engaging with organizations, corporations, and what have you, which is how do we take principles of the way in which nature respires. That's why we call it Breathing Enterprise. We actually use natural respiration techniques, photosynthesis and mitochondrial metabolism. We use those as the principles around which we teach corporations. So
it's very practical.
Breathing Enterprise is a platform that we do for enterprises or undertakings. Fully Live is exactly the same process, but applied to life. So we work with individuals, we work with groups of people. And in those efforts in our Fully Live programs, what we do is we develop a pathway to reactivate sense, to reactivate awareness, to make the possibility of individuals stepping back into their own sovereign essence, their own capacity, not to be someone else's projection, not to be someone else's story, but to be their story, their contribution, to re-engage the purpose for which they're here. And so those two programs are things that we do and absolutely love it, because in both instances, and by the way, I've just told you that there are two programs. That's kind of BS. It's the same program.
Yeah.
But the way,
tailored,
it's tailored for an audience.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I got that. It's bringing people back to their natural nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
who they are.
It is having, like, we have a very dear friend who is one of the world's top public speakers. She's an absolute we love her to death. She went through actually the corporate version because she was so advanced that she really didn't need any personal work. And going through the corporate thing, we basically drove her Titanic of her identity into an iceberg on purpose. And we did it so that she could actually re-examine really what she was about. And it was beautiful because she hit this existential crisis of, oh my God, this is the end of my life. I'll never publicly speak again. I've been a fraud my whole life, blah, 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 blah. And the funny thing is, the next time she got up in front of an audience, the authentic her showed up. Yeah. And she can't stop being engaged. She is constantly booked. She's going everywhere because people
She's enjoying it.
wanted the authentic her.
Yeah.
They had gotten what we call the facade. They had gotten this constructed version of her rather than her. And the minute she reclaimed her essence, the minute she reclaimed her voice,
she's fulfilled.
She is now an unstoppable force in the universe. But the beautiful thing was, and that's why I said it doesn't matter whether it's a corporate or a personal thing, because
we'll get you.
We'll get you on either side. And on day 3, you're going to feel like you just had the existential, what the hell just happened? My whole life is a mess. And you'll crash, and then you come out the other side and you're beautiful. And it's beautiful.
You got to go to I am nothing. Yeah. You got to go to I am nothing to get to the point where you realize you're everything, I mean, literally, like, that's powerful. That's powerful. And that's very true. That's a great example as well. Now, how do people find you?
So the way they find me is really easy. They go online and they see davidmartin.world, and then they find all our stuff. Trying to find Kim involves her finishing her website.
I've updated it, and I'm having so much fun with it.
She found, here's the problem. She found this thing called Wix, and there's so many gadgets that you can put on a website that she is endlessly trapped in the, hey, check out what I can do with this.
Artists should never create websites.
Artists should never create websites.
I'm having too much fun. But it should be live this weekend. It's theartofbeingkim.com.
theartofbeingkim.com. Well, don't feel bad. We're 9 years into this thing. We still don't have one. We've had several dry runs.
We actually have a lot of fun. But Kim is just an overwhelming, like, aesthetics and sense. And if there's a way that you can put an emoticon that flies and flowers comes out, or unicorn farts, or whatever you can do, it's on her website.
Well, you guys definitely have one characteristic of some of these couples I've seen, including my own, and that's opposites attract, or polarities, or but it's more like a puzzle piece. It's not a you know what I mean?
You're both bringing what each other needs.
Yeah. So this 5 years y'all have been together, I mean, is it just, I mean, the manifestation, is it just everything increasing, enhancing, expanding?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
true.
I tell her every morning the smile I wake up to every morning is it melts me. I love it. I fall more in love every single morning, and there's other parts that I like too, but
I know what you mean. No, but I totally get what you're saying. Absolutely, 100%. I feel it in my bones. I mean, I mean, it's crazy. This is just like,
and so it goes back to what you said about the masculine feminine thing. I'll tell you, as a man, I'm comfortable saying that no matter how existentially evolved I get, I think the approval that I feel from the smile that I get from Kim, like there's a 4-year-old in me that just goes, I did something right. Like, I don't know. And like I love that. I love it.
I like the way I act on here is me, but when I get in there with her, I'm just, I'm just like that. I totally get this. This is so crazy. I hope we get to meet you guys. I'd love to. I didn't know it was going to be like this. Otherwise, I would have blocked out some time. But
that's all right. We'll be on your show again. We'd love to.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you guys want to collaborate again, we'll put some thought into it.
Yeah, been lovely.
Yeah, we'll put some thought into it and build some awareness about what you guys are doing, and get some people heading that way, and do it on a strategically better day. But absolutely. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are excellent. Thursdays are excellent. But you guys are doing great work. You're a great example, and the whole point is that your energy speaks for itself, and regardless of whether you're talking to 100 people online or nobody, that energy is felt. I mean, I'm a firm believer in that part of us, that part of our existence. You guys, big props to you both.
Thank you, Todd. We've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I look forward to doing it again, and thank you for sharing space again, and honoring us with your presence, and wishing you the best always. And until the next time.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you very much.
It's been lovely. All the best.
Take care.
Bye-bye.